Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on what time zone you're in. I feel very fortunate to be invited and be part of this iCAN 2020 virtual summit. And while I regret we can't meet in person, I'm hoping everyone is finding creative ways to connect and recharge during this difficult time. For this session, we'll be talking about a Lilly Trial Guide Pediatric Subsite. And so my name is Courtney Tate. I'm part of the Eli Lilly Pediatric Capabilities function. And then you can see my colleagues, Kevin Hudziak, Leanne Noss, Kelly Sickle, Susan Gilchrist, and Megan Laker are part of the patient and site experience team. And at Eli Lilly, they're responsible for the content on the Lilly Trial Guide website, which is our public-facing site. So I was fortunate enough to be a participant at the 2019 iCAN Summit in Kansas City. I was very impressed with the youth input last year, and I feel very grateful to be able to utilize iCAN to provide input on and hear your youth perspectives on our various projects. And so at last year's summit, we had brought the pill swallowing training to get input from the youth. And then we also had in this picture our Understanding Clinical Trials comic book that we developed with Jumo Health that we got iCAN youth feedback on. And obviously I remember a lot of the presentations and the people that were courageous enough to share their story, and also going on the Kansas City barbecue tour, which was delicious. And so as far as my background, I have a Bachelor of Science in Chemistry and Molecular Biology, and then I have a PhD in Biochemistry and Molecular Biology with a minor in Cancer Biology. And so I started at Eli Lilly and Company about 10 years ago. And when I started, I was a postdoctoral scientist working at the bench. And so I was doing experiments, trying to figure out mechanism of action, or how a molecule works, and also tailoring, which is trying to find what patient population is more likely to respond to a molecule. And I was doing that for molecules across cancer indications. And so, and for the last 3 years, I've actually moved into a role where I support pediatric research across our company with a focus on assets that are targeting diabetes and oncology. So since today is Dress as Your Favorite Scientist Day, I have a few props to kind of help you determine who I'm dressed as. And so this is a sculpture, one of my favorite glass sculptures from where I went to graduate school. So it's in the atrium of the Medical Science Building at IU School of Medicine. So there's a picture. And then, not very fancy, but I have my 4- and 6-year-old's microscope. And this individual is well known for her X-ray crystallography. So I'll pause for a second and see how many people can put in the chat who they think that I'm dressed as. Okay. So I think many of you have some great guesses, and most of you will know that I'm dressed as Rosalind Franklin. She was an X-ray crystallographer, and she is well known for determining the molecular structures of DNA, RNA, viruses, coal, and graphite. She is best known for her work at the X-ray diffraction images of DNA. And so if you can see here, this is photo 51. Which is one of the most famous images that led to the understanding that DNA was the double helix. And so if you can remember, I'm a molecular biologist by background. So I've always been fascinated by DNA and genetics, which is one of the reasons why Rosalind Franklin is one of my favorite scientists. After finishing her work on DNA, she also led pioneering work on the molecular structure of viruses. And her team member, Erin Klug, continued her research, winning the Nobel Prize in Chemistry in 1982. And then for her work on the the images of DNA, James Watson, Francis Crick, and Morris Wilkins shared the Nobel Prize in 1962. Unfortunately, she fell ill very young in life, and she continued to do her research as long as she could, but she succumbed to ovarian cancer at the age of 37. So she died before she was eligible to be awarded the Nobel Prizes. However, her research and discoveries have had a long-lasting effect and benefit that will outlive her all too short life. Okay, so now switching gears, for the session today, the ground rules are you may stop participating at any time. Feel free to ask any questions in the chat box, and we will answer those at the end of the presentation. And then for the rest of the presentation, I'll give a little bit of background about Eli Lilly and Company and its history. And then we'll talk about a future engagement where iCAN Youth can provide input on the Lilly Child Guide Pediatric website design and content. And then we'll talk about the call out for iCAN Youth artistic content submissions that went out in June. And then the most exciting is we use the artwork that we received from iCAN Youth to generate the video. So we'll watch the video at the end. So a little bit of background about Eli Lilly and Company. This is a large pharmaceutical company headquartered in Indianapolis, Indiana. And I am joining you from my bedroom in a small town of Pittsboro, Indiana, just outside of Indianapolis. So I was born and raised here, and so Eli Lilly and Company was part of my my culture growing up, because the company is a big part of the city and one of the biggest companies in Indiana. And it has a heritage more than 140 years strong. So the company was founded in 1876 by an individual named Colonel Eli Lilly. He was a pharmaceutical chemist and Union Army veteran of the American Civil War. He served as the company's president until his death in 1898, and he opened his own laboratory in Indianapolis to manufacture medicinal drugs. And when he began that venture, he only had 3 employees, including his son, Josiah, or JK. And JK eventually ended up taking over the company after his father's death. Colonel Eli Lilly combined scientific rigor and passion for discovery with caring for the individuals and communities the company served. And then you can see some additional facts about Eli Lilly here. And you can see with his quote down here at the bottom, Eli Lilly challenges individuals to take what you find here and make it better and better, which is what we still live by today. So if you visit the Eli Lilly website, you'll see a more extensive history, but I've selected some of Lilly's notable achievements to show in the next few slides, including in 1917, Lilly partnered with the American Red Cross to treat wounded soldiers in World War I. In 1923, they produced the first commercially available insulin product for the treatment of diabetes. And at that time, diabetes was a fatal disease with no effective treatment options. So that was a huge accomplishment for Lilly. And we still have a rich history in diabetes. In 1937, they established the Lilly Endowment to pursue personal philanthropic efforts, which continues to this day. And then in the 1940s, they were one of the first companies to mass produce penicillin. In 1955, it was the first company to manufacture and distribute the polio vaccine developed by Jonas Salk. And then the Lilly leaders were appointed co-chair and honorary chair of the Indianapolis United Fund Drive. And this continues to this day, where the United Fund and United Way contributions are one of Lilly's major contributions to the surrounding community. In 2008, they established Lilly's Global Day of Service program, And this is where employees across the globe volunteer their time on that day, and everyone does a service project. And so these projects can range from landscaping and cleaning up parks to painting to participating in reading with children. Personally, my favorites that I've been involved in were, one year we did Relay for Life with the American Cancer Society, and we partnered with a local elementary school to do the Relay for Life. And then my favorite being last year, where we partnered with the Special Olympics to do a bocce tournament at the campus of Lilly in Indianapolis. And so that was a really exciting and fun event. In 2011, Lilly launched this Connecting Hearts Abroad. And so employees that have a medical background can volunteer to spend a few weeks in countries that have medical needs, so they can utilize their medical background and help others. When Colonel Eli Lilly founded the company, he established 3 core values, and these values guide Lilly in all that we do as a company. These 3 values are integrity, excellence, and respect for people. Okay, so to end this section on the select history of Lilly, here's a picture of the main entrance of the corporate center in downtown Indianapolis. And the Lilly Purpose. So the Lilly Purpose is Lilly unites caring with discovery to make lives better for people around the world. And so this is important because people includes youth and children. And so pediatric research is a critical component in our drug development process. Okay, so switching gears, Eli Lilly has a patient and site experience team that I mentioned at the beginning of this presentation, and they're responsible for this Lilly Trial Guide website. So this is a public website where we can share information with the public. That's general information about clinical trials, specifically about Lilly clinical trials, blogs, videos, information that we think is important to share with patients. And so if anyone can go to the website, but as part of this website, we are developing a pediatric subsite, and this is where we would like to get iCAN input on the content and the structure and what information is contained on this pediatric website. And so unfortunately with COVID, we had a delay, and we were wanting to get your input during the summit this week, but the website just wasn't in a place where we were ready to do that. And so we were thinking about a future iCAN chapter activity where we can get your input on the content and design of this pediatric subsite. So if you're interested in that and providing input, please put that in the chat so Amy has an idea which individuals in which chapters would be interested in doing this activity. And so we do have a draft kind of shell of what the website is going to look like. And so this is the landing page for the pediatric subsite. And it shows you kind of what sort of content is going to be on there. There will be some content directed towards patients and towards the children and youth, and some content for parents and guardians or caregivers, and then some content for both the caregivers and the youth. Okay, so these next few slides, again, are just to give you an idea of kind of what sort of content is on this website. The next section is about your child's safety, who can participate in clinical trials, who's on your clinical trial team. So some just general information about clinical trials. The next slide is showing you what to expect in a clinical trial, important questions, and then one section specifically for kids where we will have those Understanding Clinical Trial comic books that were in the picture at the beginning. where we have a version for younger kids and a version for older kids. So those will be contained on the site as well. Now we thought it would be fun and a great idea to gather some and display some artwork from iCAN Youth on this pediatric website. So we worked with Amy and Leanne to come up with a concept, and we put a call out for artistic content to reflect your experience with healthcare, or a thank you to all the healthcare workers that are dedicated to caring for others. And if you see the landing page of the website, the Pediatric Subsite, there was a placeholder where the video will go. So we received 13 wonderful submissions that we are very excited and grateful to have on the website. And so we want to say a huge thank you to all of those that have submitted your artwork. And we took that artwork and we created a video. And so we're going to watch this video twice. We were so excited to share the video with you. We think it turned out really well. We want to thank you all again for your fantastic artwork submissions. They will really give the website a special feel, and we are so grateful to have the iCAN Youth artwork displayed on our website. So thank you all today for your attention and opportunity to present, and I'm happy to answer any questions if you have them in the, submit them in the chat function. Thank you.
Hi everybody, I'm here with Courtney and this is Amy, and we are getting ready for all of your questions. I see you've been writing in the chat and we want to make sure you keep writing in the chat. Courtney, thank you. That was an awesome presentation.
Thank you for having me.
We are so delighted, and one thing that I really loved and I thought was so inspiring is seeing all the work that Eli Lilly has done through the years. And our first question is, what is your favorite scientific discovery? And it doesn't have to be at Eli Lilly, it could be anywhere, but your personal favorite first scientific discovery.
So again, I have to go back to, I'm a molecular biologist by background. So I think my favorite is in 2003, the Human Genome Project, and actually, getting the DNA sequence of the entire human genome was a huge deal in laying out the map of the genetic code. So I think that one is one of my favorites.
Oh, that is really cool. I do like that too, and I've actually seen it created into artwork, which is a neat thing. Seeing people make sculptures and different things like that out of the genomes, which is neat. The next question I have comes from Megan. And Megan wants to know, what's special about Eli Lilly?
Oh, thank you for the question, Megan. There are a lot of things I think that are special about Eli Lilly, but I've really enjoyed working there for the last 10 years. But for me, I think what makes it most special is that we're a Midwest company. And so we have that quote unquote Midwest mentality. And so me being born and raised in Indianapolis, I'm just used to it. But people are so friendly, like almost overly friendly. You know, you say hi to everyone, and we're just known for kind of our friendliness and generosity. And I can really see that when I travel, and you see, you know, the East and West Coast and how different they are from living in the Midwest. So I think that that is one of the things that makes Lilly special, is that Midwest mentality.
I like that. And I'm from Michigan, so I think we're kind of Midwest too, even though we're on the northern side. I have another question that came in, and the question is, I love space and exploration and astrophysics. What is out there in the rest of the universe?
Oh man. You know, I'm not an astrophysicist, so you know, not my background, but I'm sure there are so many things that we haven't even discovered yet that are out there. And so, you know, not a great answer, but I'm sure there's so much more to learn and explore. And I know that's an exciting field for those that want to go into it, but I just don't know that much about it.
I have one of the kids who wants to know if it's possible to submit artwork to you at a different time.
Yes. So unfortunately, with all the COVID delays, we had a little bit of a hang up getting the call out for artwork. And so we would love, if you're interested in submitting, you know, anything creative that you can take a picture of. It just has to abide by the rules, so we can't have faces or any kind of personal information that we could identify you. But we would love to receive any additional artwork. Now, we can't promise that it will be in the video on the website, but we can utilize it in our blogs and in our social media, and so we can still use the iCAN artwork.
And just a moment here to shout out to Allie. She recognized her art in the video, and she was very excited. So thank you, Allie, for participating, and to all the other kids that want to see their artwork being used, please submit it to us and let us know, just like Courtney said. Mary Elizabeth wrote in, aside from the new website, what projects are you thinking about for Eli Lilly? And maybe you could tell us a little bit about that. If you can't, that's okay. Maybe you could tell us about some general things that you might be working on.
Yeah, so for iCAN youth input, we will have another session on Thursday, and it's about, we've generated a placebo response video, and so we want you guys to watch that and see, you know, what did you really take away from the video and understand. And so we're excited to get your feedback on that. And then I know next year we'll have the website as well, and then we'll have some additional projects that I just don't know exactly what they are yet, but we always have tons of various projects that we'd love to get the iCAN youth feedback on. So
that's great. And Martine just wants you to know, great video. She loved it. She thought it was fantastic, and gave you a big congratulations. Thanks, Martine. Another thing, we have Mary Jo, who would like to know how you actually got involved with iCAN. Like, was there something, your first project, maybe you could tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so our Pediatric Capabilities Function is the group that is kind of facilitates the interaction with iCAN. And so my colleague, Mary Short, who will be on Thursday, was kind of the iCAN liaison. And so she will be retiring at the end of the year. So we're excited, you know, for her to go into retirement. But that also means that, you know, I've been, the iCAN Summit last year was my kind of first introduction to the iCAN youth. And so I will be kind of continuing on after Mary's retirement and being the iCAN Lilly liaison. So I'm really excited about that, to lead and bring some additional projects in for input.
We're going to miss Mary, but we are so glad too that you're here and everybody else at iCAN is staying with, or Eli Lilly is staying with iCAN. That's just wonderful. And so thank you, because it makes a huge difference. Ananya thanks you too, and she wants to know what the most impactful project you've worked on is, and maybe you have a little story to illustrate it.
Impactful project. So that's a hard one.
Good questions here.
One of the hard things about working in industry is a lot of the projects that you work on don't make it. And so they either fail before they get to the clinic or they fail in the clinic. And so the most exciting one I'm working on, have worked on, is in the clinic right now for children with neuroblastoma. And so, it's still to be determined whether we see, any effect in children, but the preclinical data was very exciting. And so we are anxiously awaiting to see if we actually have a benefit in children. So I think that has been kind of my favorite project to work on to date. But there's a lot that we contributed to, but unfortunately didn't pan out in the clinic.
Oh, yes, it's frustrating, but we understand, sometimes not everything comes to fruition, but we're so grateful for the projects that do. Just talking a little bit about yourself, because everybody loves to know a molecular biologist. We think that's super cool. Scott Coe just wrote in, what inspired your interest into that? And did you always know you wanted to be in the pharmaceutical industry, or did you just find yourself in that?
Yeah, so growing up in Indianapolis, obviously Lilly was a huge company. Everyone knew about Lilly. And so I had decided I really loved chemistry in high school. And so when I started in undergrad, I was solely a chemistry major. And then once I had taken a class in, I can't remember the name of it, but it was a molecular biology class. And we had molecular biology lab where at that time, doing PCR was a big deal in college. And so I absolutely loved it. I loved my professor. And at that time I decided, I'm going to pick up a molecular biology major and still maintain chemistry because I liked the chemistry. It came easy to me. And, still planning to potentially work in industry one day. However, career development, even as you get older, is very difficult. So I still feel like I don't know what I want to be when I grow up, because there are so many choices out there. And so I found myself in industry kind of as it was an opportunity. So I was a postdoc in forensic science, actually, doing DNA analysis. And this opportunity at Lilly popped up as a postdoctoral scientist. And I thought, it's my hometown, it's at Lilly. The job was really interesting, and it was, tailoring and mechanism of action for oncology. And so it just kind of fit. And I was lucky enough that someone took a chance and hired me, who was a wonderful mentor. And for me, I love the environment of industry. So after about 3 to 4 months, I decided I really loved, the fast pace and what we were working on, and I really wanted to stay in industry. So I never, it wasn't one of those things where I definitely knew I wanted to go into industry. It was more of a whittle down more of what you like and what you don't like as you're getting older. And then as I find myself in different roles, I'm getting more of those things that I enjoy doing, and less of those things that I don't enjoy as much. But I've loved, every position I've had at Lilly, because you still utilize the scientific background and you work with a lot of, interesting people that have completely different jobs, and everyone has kind of their own little niche and expertise. So it's just a fun and fast-moving, changing environment.
No, that's fun. That makes the days go by really quickly, doesn't it?
Yes.
So Maddie has a question, and along those same lines, if you weren't doing your job now, what do you think you would be doing? Do you have any secret hobbies, anything that maybe you would have loved to try out?
Yeah, growing up, I thought I was going to be a pediatrician, and then I realized I didn't do well with like blood and the dissections in school, so I took medical school off the table. However, I always had an interest in physical therapy as well, and so I think if I wasn't a scientist, I would have gone into physical therapy.
Oh, that's really good. And I think that's helpful for our kids to know. I know some of our kids are looking at physical therapy as a job, and some of them are actually receiving physical therapy. So that's interesting too. It's all relatable. So one thing you had mentioned in this conversation, I think it's a really important piece. You said you had a strong mentor. Who are your mentors and how did you find them?
Yeah, so a lot of times it's your supervisor or your colleagues, or anyone that you, at least at Lilly, we work with so many different people and so many different groups. It's pretty easy to find kind of mentors and sponsors along the way. And then once you find them, you know, they're instrumental in your learning and your growth opportunities. And so I've just been lucky that I've worked with a lot of physicians and a lot of individuals that, you know, have kind of taken me under their wing and were very interested in what I wanted to do, you know, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and how do I get there? You know, what gaps and what do I need to learn? And so, you know, it's finding those people that that are either, they could also be at your same level as well, to help you learn things that you don't know, but also, you know, the higher level individuals that can really, really have a lot of influence and can connect you with the right people.
I think that's fantastic. And I'm going to leave it just for a second and see if the kids have any last minute questions to write in. If you do, you have your warning right now. Courtney, I see you're a scientist, and if you could pick your favorite, I think you mentioned one on the video, but is there anyone else that you really love and admire?
Charles Darwin.
Yes.
I would love to go to the Galapagos Islands and
That's fantastic. All right. I'm just thinking, is there anything you want to share as a wrap up? Is there anything that you'd like to impart on our young minds? They're all listening and they're all excited, and especially about career pathing. So
yeah, and I'm happy to connect and talk to anyone about career development. But, you know, we really appreciate the partnership with iCAN. It's been fantastic over the last couple of years. And the youth voice, you know, obviously is so important. And so I admire what iCAN Youth is doing, and we really appreciate the artwork. And we are very excited and you know, it really does give that special feel to our website. So we are proud to display that artwork on our website.
yeah, and iCAN has a history of working to provide our youth-inspired artwork. I don't know if you remember a project that we did at our summit in Orlando, but I'm sure there's some kiddos that are on here listening right now, where we helped paint bricks. And the kids actually designed unique bricks. Do you know where that project is right now? Maybe that's a good follow-up on what's happening with that.
Yeah, I'll have to follow up with Kevin. I know they were made into sculptures. I just don't know if we even know where the box end up ourselves. But that's something that Kevin was involved in as well. And so I can follow up.
Yeah, that's great. Oh, that's amazing. Well, I think this is great. I don't see any more. Let's see, one more. Oh, I did have one clarification question. You had mentioned when you were talking about your classes, what is PRC? What does that stand for?
PCR.
Oh, PCR.
Polymerase chain reaction. So basically you can take DNA in a test tube, and you have little primers that bind to it, and you can amplify a certain section. And so if everyone is following the COVID research, there's a PCR test, you know, that amplifies a region, and that's how you can detect it on an instrument, the amount of DNA that is there. And so, you know, 15 years ago when I was in college, that was a big deal to be able to actually run the reaction in our college lab, whereas nowadays it's very common in you know, all laboratories. So
that's awesome. Well, thank you for spending today with us. This is great. I think we got a lot out of this conversation. We're so excited to have Eli Lilly back again at the end of the week. It'll be a terrific session, and we can't wait to see you guys all again. And for follow-up, if we have any last-minute questions that come in, can we send those to you later?
Yes, of course.
Awesome.
Of course.
Thank you so much, and I hope you have a wonderful day.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you.